Testing.
Good evening. Today is Monday, October 6th, 2025. We are at the Green Ladle and we will call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. We will start committee member introductions with Councillor Harriman.
Scott Harriman, City Council Representative to the School Committee.
Donna Galant, Ward 7.
Megan Hurd, Ward 6.
Iman Asman, Ward 5.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Phoenix McLaughlin, Ward 1.
Megan Parks at large.
Jake Langley, Superintendent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like set aside? Seeing none, the consent agenda is adopted. Oh, Member Hurd.
So on the consent agenda, why is that so loud? My gosh. IMDA and IMDB, are those things that we went over previously? Approved, adopted, reviewed? Because they are right under the consent agenda. That's what I'm just a little confused by.
I think those were ones that we didn't have changes, and she said that she was going to put them in the consent agenda because there were no changes. It was just renewing them because they had reached their time limit for renewal, but there was no changing to the policy at all. So it's just, it's updating it without any changes.
Do we, yeah, so that was my question. Usually for those, don't we do like a first and second read?
Not if there's no revisions on it. If it's staying exactly the same, it's just changing the date at the bottom of it basically to comply with the fact that we're reviewing policies, but there's been no recommended changes to those policies.
Okay, but the general public cannot comment on the consent agenda, or they can? So my concern is like we're approving two quote unquote policies, and just because there's no changes, like what if the general public has like questions or concerns, or there's something that they have a question about, or something that we have a question about, like where would be the opportunity for us to discuss that?
So policy can be brought up at any point in time, different things. The only ones that can go in consent agenda is if there's no substantive change. So that's why those live there. That's the process we've used, but people can bring up questions about policies at any point in time.
Are you good, Member Hurd?
Yeah, I guess. So I actually had a question. That's why I had asked. And also I'm hoping maybe we can like open it up and see if the public has any questions or concerns. So I don't know if that's a time to talk about it now, or do I pull it out of the consent agenda and we can discuss it?
I would advise to pull it out, and then if you want to have more discussion about it, make it another time so that people can see it in the packet and things like that. Because the way these are coded, I don't think people are going to know what they mean.
Okay, so I would like them IMDA and IMDB pulled from the consent agenda so we can talk about them at another time. Thank you.
Did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, but I think she took care of it by doing it, but there was an amendment that I was curious about making, but if we discuss it another time, that's fine. It's not something that we need to talk about right this second. Yep, perfect.
So the consent agenda is adopted other than the 2 items set aside. Sorry, Councillor Harriman.
I just wanted to point out that those 2 policies are in the agenda packet, so the public can see them and they can see that there were no changes made, that they were just reviewed and renewed, I guess.
Yeah, that's how anytime when we're from the policy committee, anytime we have policies that we don't make any edits to and it's just the normal cycle, they go in the consent agenda. That's how we've always done it. Thank you. Agenda item number 4 is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Speakers must adhere to our public policy, our public comment policy BEDH, which is available at the back of the room or on the LPS website. These meetings exist to conduct school committee business. The purpose of public comment is to share thoughts on school and educational matters. Committee members and school staff will not reply during this time. Comments must be directed to the chair and be civil. By law, comments may not pertain to specific staff or students. Comments about individuals may be directed privately. to the appropriate LPS staff member. Student privacy must be maintained. The public comment period is 30 minutes unless extended due to unusual circumstances. Priority goes to Lewiston residents and parents, students, or employees of LPS. Before starting, please state your name, town or city of residence, and affiliation to Lewiston Public Schools. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak?
Matthew Akron, Ward 4. I just want to give a great shout out to the kids from the Green Ladle from this last weekend. There was an amazing quality of food out here. I don't know where I put it all, but by God, I ate it all, I think. All but seafood. Don't eat seafood. But there was an amazing amount of food. It was great. We have amazing kids learning to cook. They're going to go on and do amazing things. We need to support them.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We will move on to item number 5 to receive Lewiston Public Schools recognition.
And Principal Radke's going to come up to share a little bit about Hamdi, who we know, but who's doing a lot of great things. And there's more.
Good evening. I'm John Radke. I'm the principal at Lewiston High School, and I am very pleased to have off to my right here, Hamdi Mohammed, and present him with a letter of commendation from the National Merit Scholarship Program. The letter of commendation signifies Hamdi's designation as a commended student in the National Merit Scholar Program. His high selection index score places him among the top students who entered the 2026 National Merit Program by taking the 2024 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. All of us associated with Lewiston High School join in congratulating you at this for achieving this letter of commendation. Well done. You're welcome. Photos?
Yeah, I'd like to do a quick picture, but also, Hamdi, maybe before you go back, you can tell us a little bit about Vanderbilt this summer.
Sure. Vanderbilt was a great experience. It taught me a lot about research. Specifically in Vanderbilt, I was doing structural biology research on bladder cancer. And I guess even more specifically, I was looking at how some mutations can cause bladder cancer. We were looking at like some proteins that were mutated and we were making them and then looking at their structure. It was very interesting stuff.
Okay, so maybe do a photo op, John, maybe you too, and
Sure.
my photographer's not here this evening.
All right. Come out front, that's all.
You want to join?
Yes.
There you go.
Absolutely. No. It's all you, my friend.
Agenda item number 6 is to receive an update on staffing.
So I don't have a lot to say about it, but we've touched on it a couple of times, and Susanna and her HR team were able to pull together some data so you can actually see it. But our turnover rates, we went back, or they went back to 19, and you can see how we had a spike in turnover a few years back, and we're trending. This is now the third consecutive year that we're moving in the right direction, and hopefully we continue to see that trending that in that direction. To the left of it, you can see vacancies. And just as a note, we do cover a lot of things with substitutes. We have a lot of very, very good subs, but there are still vacancies, and we are looking to hire those. And we continue to look at applicants and do interviews on a regular basis.
Counselor Harriman?
Can we put this up on the screen so people can view
Oh,
it?
yeah, sorry.
Do any committee members have any questions or comments on this? Member McLaughlin?
What is a rate to aim for, I suppose? Do you have a rough sense of an average in other districts?
I haven't looked at other districts. We've had discussions about this, but I think anything below 10% would be really exciting in our current field. Because remember, we have retirements and things of that nature too. Sometimes people just move. But I think anything under 10% I would consider that to be a really good place to be. And the added benefit to that is less new training, less new everything, which is also costly to a district when we bring on people and background checks and all the things. And so yeah, I would say anything under 10.
Member Ames?
It looks like the special ed tech is really the place where we're the most down. Are we managing with this level, or are we struggling with this level?
So we do have a number of subs that are helping, but in our special purpose programs, many of them are staffed healthier than other places. But special ed in general is a challenging area to hire for sure. We do have some ongoing things too, like the apprenticeship work and the trainings, and adult ed is actually helping with some training. So if folks are interested, take a look at the different offerings just to learn more about being an ed tech in schools and how they function, so that work is happening.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. So I know I had mentioned this to you before, Jake, but we have coaches in our district for math and literacy to help new staff members or teachers or really anybody in the building that needs help with what they're doing. But if special ed is having, you're saying like it's hard to hire there, have we thought about having a special ed coach? So a coach that helps the staff, Kirsten and her staff and who her staff are, it seems like, I don't want to say we're leaving them out there high and dry because we're really not. But at the same time, like if we can move people into those positions that can be coached, those would fill those needs.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I know Director Crafts is interested in, and I think we may see that even in this budget cycle. We've already started talking about the budget. It's very early, obviously, but it's one of the things on her list that she would like to have. And I do think it makes sense to talk about supporting folks in those roles. And again, continue to hire and retain wherever we can, because having a healthy staffing level is going to make everything better.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Just quickly, do you attribute the recent decline to anything specific, or more just kind of returning to normal post-pandemic, or anything in particular?
Well, I'd like to think that we're just like the awesomest place ever to work. So I do think we've done a good job of doing what we can to take care of people. And I think that matters. I think when we are trying to take as family of a approach as we can when people face hardships and trying to help them through those situations and whatnot, I think those do add up. I think little things like T-shirts and appreciations, I think those things matter. And I think if we can have a little bit of funding to do those kinds of things, I think we can support it. I do think that there's a concerted effort around teaching right now, systemically as a nation, to just try to, there's more credit-bearing courses available, more flexibility in those structures at the post-secondary level. There's some funding to help with cost of college, things of that nature. A lot of school districts are also doing things like the apprenticeship effort and supporting people through certification. And kind of a side plug, the state board is looking at Chapter 115, which is certification, and potentially going to allow for someone, if they have a bachelor's, to go through a portfolio process to have the certification advanced. So those kinds of shifts, I think, are helping across the board, but I think it takes everything. But yeah, really, it's an awesome place to be. That's why it's getting better.
Are there any members of the public that wanted to comment on this? No? You don't need anything from us, just this sharing info? Okay. Agenda item number 7 is to receive enrollment projections.
So I'm going to bring that up as well. But it's a 24-page document, so if anybody's looking at it online, please know that it's quite a document. But I think some of the keys to this are looking at aggregate and annual growth, and so want to be mindful that some of these projections right now also don't include certain things. One second, I'm just sharing the right page. For example, in our overall, don't forget that we have, if you include this building, 4 different sites for Lewiston Regional Technical Center, including the Auburn campus, which is under your purview. Obviously Lewiston, Green Ladle, and we also have students and programs at Central Maine Community College. And they actually topped 1,000 students this year, and those are not part of the enrollment metric when we're talking about some of these things. So just be mindful of that. Those programs continue to grow, and we look to grow them because kids want them, and it seems to be a really good and engaging process. But we are looking at projected growth with all the development in the community of anywhere from 200 to 500 students over a multi-year swing. That's not tomorrow, but we are looking at some significant growth in our student population as we look at things by grade level. So,
Member Glant?
Question on the new housing development. Approximately 500 new residential units are projected to be occupied in the next 10 years. During that period, the annual impact on any given year based on moderate study estimate that in peak years to be 0 students.
So well, this is a report that came from Power Schools that's specific to that work that they do. But remember, some of the building developments are transfer of occupants. So people leaving older structures that I think are going to be torn down or at least rehabbed, and then move to new ones. So why that would be a 0, I don't know. But there's other components of this report that show some growth. So I don't know if that's lending itself to, you could have 0. I always struggle with enrollment projections because you only know what's happening in front of you day to day.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any members of the public? No. Oh, yep, Member McLaughlin.
So just to clarify, you're saying, because when we've talked about student numbers before, we've talked closer to almost the 6,000 range, I think, and this, it's more around 5,000. So it's that LRTC, is that primary difference in the student count?
No. So yes and no. So yes,
Okay.
they have 1,000 plus kids right now. Some of those kids are already enrolled with us, and they take programs. So, but it's their separate count, if you will. But no, we're well into 5,000 currently today. So yeah, I mean, I pulled the report the other day and it was like 57,
So
40 something.
So I guess my question is just looking at the table that you just had up on page 9, where it says 2025, the subtotal is 5,046. I'm just trying to figure out what the
Yeah.
what they're counting differently is all. And just if there's a difference in terms of the growth potentially in those.
Yeah, so I'd have to go dig,
Okay.
but I would say some other things that you don't see living in here, outplay students.
Oh, yeah.
And we're over 100 outplay students, 130 outplay students. But I can dig if you want more granular info.
Okay.
What's that?
That's it.
5740 something versus 504 something.
Again, this is a power school projection, so
Does this include like students that are enrolled in Lewiston Academy and like Next Step and all of that as well?
it would include next step. I would have to check on Lewiston Academy.
Okay.
So this was less about today's data, more about 5 and 10 years out, so.
Member Bowden?
Did we pay for this projection?
So this tool is included in our software that.
Okay, well, that's
We do
good.
pay for software with PowerSchool, but this tool is part of that software.
So I just,
Other projection enrollment folks do have charges to them.
okay, well, I recall like the former superintendent doing a big,
Expensive.
very expensive projection. And it projected that we were not going to grow, we were going to start losing students, which clearly is not the case. So I'm just looking at this and I'm in my head, I'm like, I hope we didn't pay for this because I kind of take all of this with a grain of salt, but I appreciate that you're, pulled it. If it's free, cool. Thank you.
Hey, you got it.
Member Gallant?
Yeah, and I don't see, maybe I haven't seen it yet. CDS, expectation with CDS.
That is not on this to my knowledge. We estimate somewhere between 1 and 200 plus kids for CDS.
I forget, when does that mandatory?
27?
So we have 2 more years before it's mandatory, and we could opt in next year to do some, or opt in next year to do both, or wait 2 years to do both in 1 year. We actually just met with the state, and I wanted to do a little more gathering of information and bring that back to you as a full agenda item, because that's going to be a lift.
Just to say real quick, I mean, I know there's maybe some issues with this particular source, but I do think it's a helpful, grounding point where I think you're frequently very good about sharing what you know for a fact is happening in the city and just with the school. Things like, yeah, CDS, as Member Glant just mentioned, and keeping track of the housing that is being developed. And just to say, I mean, your opinion and expectation is that we're still going to be adding more students in the coming years, which this does show as well, but just, that reflects your opinion.
Yeah, I think, so the answer is yes. I do expect us to continue to grow some. I don't think it's going to be a massive jump. I don't think we're in, staring at a cliff where we have to come up with room for 500 kids tomorrow. I do think we'll continue to grow as long as the housing continues to be built. CDS will add kids, obviously. And then there's kind of like the will of the community with things like CTE programming. If we want to add programs as a region, then more kids will be counted in that space. I think the thing that I'm more interested in is less the whole number and more of where's the bubble. So when you're looking at the middle school, if you have 2 classes back to back that are quite big, can you put 900 kids in the middle school when it's typically running around 8? That's when you start getting into those questions of making sure we have contingency plans and we're staying ahead of it. For example, the page that I have up right now shows the high school at a moderate growth at 2,000 students. So right now enrolled at the high school level, I'm looking across to Principal Radke. I think day to day you have, was it 1,700 students on a list? And of those, some are next step students. But if you look at it from that perspective, you could be adding 300 plus kids to the high school in any one window. That's a lot. That's a lot of additional humans in classes.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. So it just talking about all this and reading it made me think of an article that I saw in the Sun Journal the other day, which I don't tend to read that newspaper very often, but it piqued my interest of, it was like Maine school construction funding, like failed or whatever. And so we already know we don't have space for what's coming and we've been on the list and we're like, will that have any impact on building new schools in the state of Maine or like adding or, I mean, like, because like, what do we do when we are at capacity? Where do we go from there?
The space is a concern now, obviously. We landed as number 10 and number either 23 or 24 from Montello. 10 was the middle school, also underneath the umbrella of a 6, 7, 8 model, which again, if that magically gets funded, which again, I'm being real, I don't think it will be. I would love for it to be funded. If that happens, we can move the 6th grade out of the elementary schools. That changes what you can use for space and partnerships for things like CDS and larger bubbles going through. But what do we do when we're completely out of space? Some districts have had to get like modulars. And they put them outside the doors and kids have classes that are outside. Um, we've seen that as an approach. I've seen temporary rentals. So if you have a bubble that's moving through and it's going to be a couple years, you rent a space that is not currently either being used or not necessarily school, but you kind of retrofit it for school. That can be a short-term answer, but yeah, the real answer is we have to be eyes up and do what we can because if we have this bubble go through like we're anticipating, it's going to happen, but it's not necessarily going to be forever. I'm always conscious of not spending, $150 million of state dollars on a facility that might not be needed in just a few years. So, but my real answer is that we just have to work through it. There's no magic money, and even if we get money for the middle school, you're talking 5 years out before you potentially step foot in it.
Counselor Harriman?
Thank you. I was just going to mention, we also have the Main Street building, but obviously that needs funding to retrofit and rehab it. But that's one piece that might help us out in a few years.
Anything else? All right. Good. Agenda item number 8 is to receive and potentially vote on the fiscal year 25 audit transfers.
Okay, I'll pull that up as well. So last year was the first year we did this. These are transfers for areas of our budget that were over but covered by revenue. It's not mandatory or required in statute that we know of, but we think it's good practice. So let me pull that up real quick. And we worked with the auditors and Adam and Bill, obviously, around this. And so these transfers, if approved by the school committee, will move funds from either other revenues or other articles to just make it report out accurately for accounting purposes. Yeah, that's, we can talk more about the overruns if you want. A lot of it had to do with contracts or out of district or special ed costs. Transportation, you can see, was a pretty big item. But we received additional revenues from hardship funds, which is connected to additional multilingual students. So the state, they do, I'll call it a correction, sometimes once or twice a year. And last year we got 2 disbursements based on our increase in multilingual students. And we also had more money from reimbursements from the main care effort. That's, you can dotted line connect that back to like Climb, and we get reimbursement for services we provide that they came in far higher than we thought it might be. So that was an additional component. We also have adjustments for high cost out of district and high cost in district. So when we provide the services at Climb or we're paying for the services elsewhere, they have a metric for reimbursing schools as long as the funds are available. And last year we got some of that. So you can see the request. We talked about it at the finance committee, and yeah.
Any questions or comments? Member Bowden?
I'll make a motion to approve the audit transfers for fiscal year 25.
I'll second that.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item number 9 is to review and potentially vote on the first read for policies GBEC and JIE.
So Karen's not here, so I'll be your substitute for this. The GBEC is details about the substance-free workplace, pretty generic language that comes by way of recommendations tied to statute, and also JIE, which is language around pregnant students and the protections of students who are pregnant.
Member Heard?
Thank you. Actually, this is a Susanna question. She just happened to be in the audience this evening. I don't know how that worked out, but on GBEC where it says all voluntary referrals shall be kept confidential to the greatest extent practical. Just looking for clarification, like if someone was to come to Susanna and, you know, voluntarily by law, is she allowed to share that information with you or the staff at the school, or because the staff is protected under the American Disability Act? Is that very like?
Yeah, so she could speak this too if she wants. Substance abuse essentially it has kind of its own category for things. So if let's say a staff showed up for work seemingly under the influence, we wouldn't disseminate that information. We would deal with it. It may result in things like termination or what have you, but it has its own layer of confidentiality. The other thing that can happen is staff can self-report that they're seeking treatment for substance-related things. And so that's when you get into that. That's like HIPAA related type language where it is protected and we wouldn't talk about it. Now, Suzanne and I talk about lots and lots of things. But I do think that there are cases in which nothing is confidential really like to me. Well, it's confidential, but it's not that I can't hear it. But there are certain protections in place for substance use, abuse, connected treatments. And that's where we would try to keep it confidential.
Yeah. It actually falls under the FMLA laws. So if somebody comes to me and says, you know, I have this addiction, I'm in the process of seeking treatment, the first thing that would happen would be, okay, let's talk about what that treatment looks like, who's your medical provider, who's guiding you through this, and then we would actually pursue some FMLA coverage for their position while they're getting treatment, which, you know, gives them job protection for 12 weeks, but that could look like a number of different things depending upon what their need is. But just like any other FMLA case, I know the details of it. What Jake really knows is what do we have to cover to affect to make sure that classes are effectively running while this person is on leave.
FMLA, does that vary by state or is that federal?
It's both. So there's a federal layer and there's also a state layer. There are actually multiple state layers. So you have the federal, which has very similar guidelines to state. There are some small differences, but you run those as the person is eligible in a concurrent manner. So it really builds, if they're eligible for federal and state, that 12-week protection.
So for the state of Maine, FML kicks in the day you're hired, or is it after 12 months, or?
As of right now, for educators in the state of Maine, you have to work 900 hours to be eligible. If you're a non-educator, then it has to be 1,250 hours in the prior year, but May 1st, that changes with the paid federal leave, the paid Maine leave. Doesn't change the federal leave, but the paid Maine leave, you literally only have to work for us one day and you're eligible.
For teachers, right, but not?
For anyone, for
Okay.
any staff person.
Perfect. And then, so my other question would be in, like, I don't know if this is a policy, but what does Lewiston Public Schools provide to their staff for their, like, about substance abuse? Like, we're writing a policy saying that, like, obviously this can't happen in our district, but like, what are we providing our staff saying, like, if you do have a problem, this is what we're offering? And how, you know, are we educating our staff and saying, like, hey, guess what? If you also pay for short-term disability, you're covered by FMLA, and you know, you're not going to not get paid for however long you're in treatment and those types of things. Like, I just want to make sure that, like, obviously this is to protect our staff and students, but like, what are we doing to protect our employees?
So we have an employee assistance program, which is free, provided to every single one of our employees, whether they take health insurance or not. That provides up to 6 free counseling sessions, which will then hook them up with a permanent counselor, which can also help them find substance abuse treatment programs, different types of things like that, which they can coordinate healthcare benefits with our healthcare and our disability. We're required by law to post FMLA notices in every single one of our buildings in all of the areas that are accessed by staff. That's also posted on all of our websites for each school as well as our district website. And we make sure that, you know, the first thing that we do, we have a benefits specialist, and if they call HR and say, hey, I need some leave for this, whatever, she sources out kind of what is the best thing, meets with them, goes over all of those requirements. So we try to make sure that there's information available for folks who are looking for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Bowden?
Thank you. I had a question on the next one, the pregnant students. What was added to the beginning a few times is false pregnancy. And I guess I'm just looking for clarification. Does that mean like a miscarriage? Does that mean, like, what does that mean exactly? I mean, your policy, right? You
Yeah,
said
I'm
it's-
policy.
okay.
I remember asking that same question,
Okay.
and there was, I guess, a case that made it necessary to add this, but it's a hormonal, it can be a tumor, it can be a hormonal imbalance, it can be, there are kinds of things that appear like the pregnancy until it isn't. But you're planning your life around a pregnancy when it turns out that it was a tumor, not a pregnancy, or something like that. So that's covered now.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. I'd like to approve the first read of the following policies listed A and B.
Is there a second?
One second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. Agenda item number 10 is to review and potentially vote on the deletion of the following policy, IHDA.
So IHDA, it's a really short policy. I'll just read it. It says the Lewiston School Committee shall permit postgraduate residents of Lewiston to attend secondary school classes up to the age of 20. Such requests must be approved by the high school administrator in accordance with established administrative procedures. So this is no longer necessary because there is state law that supersedes this. And students can go to school up till the age of 22 if they have an IEP that says so. This is an unnecessary policy because of statute and doesn't align to the statute.
Member Bowden?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the deletion of policy IHDA.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Agenda item number 11 is a report from the chair. I do not have anything to report on. Number 12 is the superintendent's report.
I don't have any real big hitter items. I think things are going pretty smoothly. We still have lots going on. The tennis courts have started. Our camera projects are hopefully going to be done by the end of November. That would put us all in one system for access controls and our camera system integrated. That's going well. The new Reach My Teach platform seems to be working well as long as Jake hits the right button in the morning, because this morning I did not hit the right button. So my apologies for anyone whose bus was disrupted and you were unaware. Messaging did go out via email, but I have to choose other boxes for it to go in other ways. I forgot. And so learning the new system, but it seems to be going well. We're also using it to, we've trained some staff with it, but to book things like parent-teacher conferences. So we can front load information. It can do things like block out interpreters. So like there's no double booking and things like that. And for a long time that was somewhat technology, but also had needed that hands-on piece to just vet like what interpreters are available at what time and which rooms and making sure there was transitions and whatnot. So this tool should be helping with that. Water may or may not be turned off Friday at Farwell, but that's known and we have a plan for it. And it's a workshop day. So we have a plan for that. That's connected to the construction that's happening next door for that development. Let's see here. Doing some finishing touches on projects that started the summer, like Montello. That office got kind of a facelift, and we're going to put the heat back in. Some doors are coming to a closure as far as being replaced. And Hudson said they have 4 drivers that are testing this month. So hopefully I don't have to coordinate those communications in the morning because all the buses are running. That's all for now. Oh, one thing, I guess, sorry, I forgot. Homecoming went phenomenal. We had 500 plus kids, I think you said, John?
500 tickets sold.
Over 500 tickets sold. The night was great. Fuller was the DJ, and everybody came and had a great time and went home safely. So no issues. It's good to see that kind of activity be back in full swing with plenty of energy.
Member McLaughlin?
Do you want to mention the Thursday meeting?
So Thursday at 5 o'clock right here, if you're interested in person, we're going to have some opportunities to look at the school committee goals, the drafted goals, and also get community input on the goals that exist, other thoughts. So we plan on doing some tabletop feedback components for those who wish to attend. We'll be here at 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. After we have that information, we'll do another look at the draft and make sure we share it out so that people can provide input via survey. And then tomorrow afternoon, administrators are taking a look at it to provide their feedback. So trying to get lots of feedback.
Member Gallant?
Will the meeting on Thursday, will that be televised?
Yeah, Austin pledged to be here, so he'll be able to put it up. It's not a school committee meeting though. Think of it more like a town hall, like we did last year with the budget, where we'll put the goals up. We'll have some things we can talk about around the table, and anyone's welcome to show up and share their thoughts, and we'll just go from there. Pretty informal, but we want to get people's feedback, and we'll see what the turnout is.
Turn that off. Agenda item number 13 is report from our city council rep.
I don't really have anything to report other than we have a meeting tomorrow evening at 7.
Thank you. Do we have any updates from subcommittees? Member Bowden?
I mean, the finance committee just met before this meeting, but everything that we went over was in the packet tonight, just the transfer. That's it.
Member Eames?
Same for policy. What we met about last time was in the packet, but we're meeting on Thursday, so there'll be more.
Any other subcommittees meeting? No? All right. 15 is school committee community announcements. Go ahead.
I'm still plugging the Saturday, November 1st, Unicorns, Dragons, and Mermaids Oh My, a mythical creature party at the library from 12 to 2. It's free. Thank you.
October 19th is the, I don't know if it's 50th or 55th Farwell Pumpkin Festival. It's been going on for a really long time. That's on October 19th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then just a reminder that we're coming up on a 4-day weekend. There's no school Friday or next Monday. Is that it? Anyone have anything else? No. Agenda item number 16 is future agenda items. Member Bowden?
I don't even know if I need to say this is a future agenda item because we took it off the consent agenda. That's good? All right, that's it.
I made a note, but if you do have thoughts on either of those policies that we pulled out of the consent agenda, feel free to shoot them my way and we can look at it with the policy subcommittee. Yeah, we meet Thursday. You don't have to have it by then, but if you do, we can have the group look at them Thursday.
Any other future agenda items? Nope. And agenda item number 17 is to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter in accordance with 1 MRSA 4056A. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimous. The school committee is in executive session at 6:17 p.m.